If you try to make art, you're gonna make mistakes. If you want to get better at art, you gotta be okay with making mistakes. Hello and welcome back, unless you're new here, in which case, welcome. My name is Larissa. I'm a nerdy freelance artist who loves Disney and drinks a lot of tea. I have a very artistic father, and my family was always very supportive of my art, which I have been obsessed with since before I can remember. When I found out that art school was a thing, you would have thought I had just gotten a Hogwarts letter. But everyone always seems to have the impression that some people are just born with the ability to set a pencil or a brush to paper and just create beautiful art. And if you aren't born with that ability, then you just can't be an artist. But nobody expects a kid to just be born with the ability to diagnose illness and perform surgery. And everyone's okay with the idea of music and dance lessons. And law school is the notoriously difficult step towards becoming a lawyer. And yes, there are some people who are just born prodigies in just about any field, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to work and study towards something. Ask just about any artist how they got so good, and they're usually going to reply, practice. And practice means making mistakes, studying, working hard, and learning new ways of doing different things. And there isn't some magical last final mistake that you make that, you do that, you learn from it, and boom, artist achievement unlocked. It's okay to mess up with art, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna keep happening. I have been drawing my entire life. I went to a big fancy art school that I spent way too much money on. I have been working in creative fields professionally since before I graduated from college, and I still make mistakes. Lots of them. But the beauty of art is that you can just make more of it. Starry Night is one of the most iconic paintings in human history, and there's like 20 versions of it. So today I'm going to share just a couple of mistakes that I have made with some examples from my recent dog commission. First, on Sebastian, who is the larger of the two dogs, I got him pretty much finished when I realized I wasn't happy with the shading on him. It felt kind of harsh and bland to me. It didn't have the oomph that I was going for, considering he is one of the two main focuses of the painting. So I added some more contrast and some more saturation in teals and purples in his shadows. And then I exaggerated the contrast in the nose and mouth areas because I really felt that they needed a little more oomph. And that's one of the great things about a medium like acrylic paint, is that you can just keep painting over it, as long as you don't have like weird dimensional brush strokes or something happening. But as a general rule, you can just sort of keep going over the same area, changing and tweaking colors and shading and saturation, etc. Next example of a oops that I had was the red cloth on the table. Before I was even completely finished with it, I knew it was just too bright. There isn't any other sort of true red anywhere else in this composition. The closest is the wine in the glasses, which is obviously a very different horse. So I definitely knew I needed to change that. Once I finished painting the entire cloth the first time, I let it completely dry, and then I went back over it and just painted over it. I cut back the saturation by adding in some purpley and brown tones so that it would keep that sort of traditional feel that we were trying to portray, but it wasn't quite so intense and in your face. I'd already worked out all the shading and everything the first time I painted it, so that was all figured out. I just had to go over it again, that way it wasn't so overpowering in the rest of the grand scheme of the composition. Since I'm freelance, I really only have myself and my clients to answer to, but to me, that means I have to hold myself to a very high standard. My clients don't have a fancy art degree and decades of experience, so they might not necessarily catch that something is a little bit weird or a little wonky or just plain wrong. But if I know it and I'm going to be putting it out there to the world literally with my name on it, I want it to be as right as I can make it. But I haven't always been freelance, and I've definitely had the 9-to-5 creative job, and there's a bunch of those from fashion designers, graphic designers, etc. And in those cases, you're not only going to have yourself and clients to answer to, but you're also going to have your coworkers and your superiors. And in those cases, you have to be okay with your mistakes being pointed out to you regularly. And yes, sometimes you're able to sort of defend your work and argue for why you did things, but sometimes you're just gonna be told you're wrong and you have to be okay with that and you have to just move on and do what you're told. That's part of being paid for any sort of a task. You are being hired for your sort of professional expertise, but it's also because the client wants something, so you have to be prepared to deliver that. So if what you bring to the table the first time around isn't what they want or what they expected, even if it's exactly what they asked for, you still have to be prepared to make changes. But in the long run, that's just learning experience to move forward and better your art. And often you'll develop a professional relationship with somebody and they will keep coming back to you. And once you've learned a lot more about what they are expecting and what they want and what they like, that just makes it that much easier for you. So those mistakes that you made and how you handled them can really help you in the long run. So don't worry if you mess up as an artist. Erase it, paint over it, start over. Every mistake is just practice to get better and learn from. And sometimes you have to get really far into a piece, especially on a massive thing like this dog painting, before you can really know that you made a mistake. Everything seems fine, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's not right. And that's okay, because you can make that mistake and learn from it and move forward and become a better artist. And that's what all of us have to do. I hope you found this helpful and inspiring. If you did, please like the video down below and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I'm going to be uploading a new art video every Thursday in October for Inktober, and I have some really fun sort of tweaks and twists that I'm using this year, so that should be pretty exciting. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.